Today we're on lesson 94, right?
Yes,
It's
94. And
okay.
you are live on YouTube. So Susan Michel, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. It's a nice sunny day. Believe it or not, we're just about to hit 70 degrees. So I had a beautiful run this morning, and it's apparent that spring has finally come. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. And when I adhere, embody the principles that I know to be true, I feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. And when I don't, life is not as much fun. And I am here with my two beautiful soul sisters, Myrna Skoller in Boca Raton, Florida. She is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus that I always keep right here on my desk. It's such a wonderful complement to the workbook for students in A Course in Miracles. And also, she's the author of six other books. How are you, Myrna?
Wonderful. I am wonderful. What better word can there be than wonderful? I'm with God. And when I'm here during this wonderful session with my soul sisters, as you put it, how can it be anything but? So that's exactly the word that came to mind. Wonderful.
And I can pick up that wonderful vibrational high frequency, Myrna. So thank you, thank you. You always elevate my consciousness. And Glorian is here from New York. It's so great to be here with you. How are you, Glorian?
I'm wonderful too, and so glad to be here with both of you. And like Myrna said, it's wonderful when we just live from our joy, when we're in that experience of joy. So glad to be here with both of you. And I'll say it's nice here in New York City today too, going up to 70. So after this, I'll be taking a stroll.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful day to be outside. And Dove Fishman put in the chat, wonderful, spelt ONE, wonderful. Very insightful play on words, because when we acknowledge our connection and the fact that God has but one son and we're all part of that sonship, we are all interconnected, it just elevates our frequency tremendously. Thank you, Dove. So I will start with the introduction of my book, as I usually do. What I write is I write, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender, which my paragraph goes very well with the lesson of the day. Today is the 94th day of 2025. And what today's lesson states is, I am as God created me. So no matter what happened in the past, we can connect to God right here, right now, when we acknowledge our innocence You know, when we acknowledge how much we have within us, we can connect to source energy right here, right now. We can plug ourselves into our God socket right here, right now, at each and every moment. And I've been really reciting this today too. I listened to a couple of YouTube interpretations of it, and I've been reciting it because all we need to do is release our resistance. So A Course in Miracles is not teaching us the meaning of love. A Course in Miracles is teaching us to identify our blocks. So when our blocks arise, they're kind of like dark clouds surrounding the sun, dark clouds surrounding our joy. So when the dark clouds arise, when the emotional interference arises, when the fear-based emotions arise, all we need to do, and I'm not saying it's easy, it's simple. The truth is very simple. It's not easy. You know, A Course in Miracles is a book in mind training. So we need to train our mind to identify those fear-based thoughts. And when they do arise, we just need to release them and to affirm that we are innocent, affirm that we are sinless, affirm that we are as God created me. We are a part of God. And when we think alongside of God, we are going to feel his peace, love, joy, and happiness. Right, Myrna?
Yes, I like everything that you say because it's true. You know, when you can just when we're here during these sessions and speak to each other, what do we speak? We speak only truth. So it's always good to kind of, and what is the truth? When we feel that you know, that it's a knowing, let's put it that way. A truth is just a knowing, something that you just know. It's not something you can convince anyone of. It's just a wonderful feeling that God allows us to connect to, which is the knowing of who he is. Um, Dove put something in the chat commenting on the title of your book, Surrender to Joy. There is nothing else to gain. So when you think about that, when you can surrender and come up against what you're surrendering to, which is total joy, what else would there be to want total joy? Think about that. That is really a wonderful title because it's amazing how we all want to feel joy, but we have to surrender to it because the ego gets in the way. And we discuss that all the time. So if we can sort of wipe away the insignificance of the ego's dictates and mistrust, we can then become aware of what the joy of God is. We're wiping away all the debris that keeps us from God. And when you say my passion is God, oh, I relate to that because what greater passion could there be than the love of God? What greater passion could there be than to connect to the Almighty who only has our best interests in his sight? We speak to each other and we recognize each other only as bodies. But when we think about God, who really doesn't see our body, only sees our soul, and so therefore the soul is all that really matters. And when we can give God that part of us that connects to him, which is the soul, that in itself is joy. And love and peace and all the good things, all the wonderful words come to me: happiness, love, joy, peace, graciousness, kindness, empathy, anything I can think of relating to that soul experience gives us those wonderful words to ponder on. And earlier I was listening to the conversation with Gloria and the group before this, and they were talking about meditation. And I know you, Susan, are a big person of meditation. And how important that can be when that's what really brings us to that stillness. Because where else do we find stillness except in meditation, when we are just focused on the stillness, on the quiet, and then we can allow God to emerge within the directness and oneness of who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna. Very wise, very insightful, as always. Gloria?
Thank you, both Susan and Myrna. I love that. And for me, meditation is just so important. To me, it's the portal to the kingdom that we enter in that holy instant of the quiet mind, where we experience ourselves as the Christ consciousness, which is the kingdom, the spirit of God that I am. And I probably say this all the time, but I absolutely love the name of your book, Susan, because I think it's perfect. And I think that that's all we really need to do. Surrender to joy, surrender the ego to the joy of what I am. And what you read in the lesson about I am as God created me, which is complete salvation. Complete salvation comes from the idea of that ego being silent. So I am as God created me. The ego is silent. Sights of this world disappear because I'm in that quiet mind. And as I'm accepting what I am in the quiet mind, which is an experience, the projections cease to happen. In the projections being relinquished when we're settled into that quiet space, no more judgment, no more fear, no more guilt. None of that is being projected out there. And if it is, okay, it's showing us what we think so that then we can make a different choice about it. But once we recognize that we can have that complete salvation, that experience of the Christ that I am now, in the eternal now, the holy instant, as Jesus tells us in the Course, which really comes down to that quiet mind, that willingness to be the witness, be the observer above the battleground, the beholder, separate and apart from the projections that I see. They're not what I am. And being willing to accept what I am offers me the peace of the kingdom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was watching the news yesterday, which I have been doing often. There's so much going on. Most of it is based on the ego. So uh, I probably shouldn't be watching it every day, but I do because the world is an interesting place right now. And there was a news report on, and there was a man whose son had been killed in Texas. And his son, I believe, was a teenager. I don't know who killed his son. I didn't hear the whole report, but I do know he was a Christian man, traditional, I assume. And he had a shirt on that said faith over fear. And then the commentator started asking him a few questions about the death of his son. And then she says to him, "What I find the most interesting," she said, "is that you are able to forgive the person who murdered your son. How can you forgive what many people would see as unforgivable?" And the answer he gave, even though he was coming from a traditional Christian viewpoint, was so in sync with everything that A Course in Miracles teaches. The truth is the truth. This gentleman responded by saying, "I'm not forgiving for the murderer." He says, "I'm forgiving for myself. I cannot connect to God, my creator, when I'm hanging on to grievances and resentment." He says, "I'm human, so it hurts. My son was killed. However, my faith in God is the most important thing to me. And I am not going to let anything get in the way of that." And it just brought tears to my eyes, because you think of it. How can we forgive what many people would see as unforgivable? I mean, the death of a child, that must be the most terrible thing that could happen to anyone. I don't have children, so I can't even relate to that in this lifetime. But I can only imagine, that would be horrific. And then this man, again, he had a shirt on with a cross, and then it said faith over fear. That is everything that A Course in Miracles teaches. We don't forgive for the other person. However, the other person probably does benefit from our forgiveness, because we all have one mind. We're all part of the same sonship. We're all connected on a deep level. But the real person that gains when we can forgive other people is ourself, because we're releasing the blocks. We're releasing our blocks, and we can't feel our connection to God when we're blocking it with fear. So when we forgive our brother, who are we forgiving? We're forgiving ourselves, and we are aligning our consciousness with the consciousness of God. God doesn't need to forgive us, because God has never condemned us. However, we do need to forgive our brothers, because in this earthly classroom, we are taught to condemn our brother. We are taught to judge our brother. And we can't connect with God when our mind is having fear-based thoughts. So I thought that was such a beautiful little clip on the news. And I guess it makes me realize too, I mean, there are certain things that don't make sense about the traditional Christian thought system, but there are a lot of things that I have in common with the traditional Christian thought system. What do you think, Myrna?
Yeah, I like that analogy that you gave, by watching the news and recognizing somebody who, stepped forward and said, well, I forgive the person, that murdered my son. I mean, that's a very tough thing to get past. I can't imagine, I often think that I am so forgiving and loving and caring and all that. But I think if that had happened to one of my children, how would I really react? Would I really, be able to have that greatness within myself to acknowledge that nobody is really guilty, and that this is something that that can be forgiven according to the Course in Miracles, and according to my that my connection with God. Everything is forgivable, but when circumstances happen that directly involve us or attack us, you wonder really. And maybe this is some sort of a test. Not that God tests us, through pain. I don't believe that at all. But it is really a test within ourselves to see whether or not we can find peace within that stagnant part of the ego that we can only condemn and hate and be fearful, as you say. It's a fearful thing to happen. So that's a very interesting thing. I think what's happening in the world today is you see more and more of that than ever before. You really do. You talk about the news, and among the chaos and all the mishaps that are happening in the world, that's all you really hear. That's all you hear. Like my boyfriend Pat said, the news is the best TV drama you'll ever have. And that's really what it is. It's drama, but aside from all of that, I really think that that in today's understanding, the way we've evolved to encompass, all the knowledge that we have that relates to A Course in Miracles, so much of that is given in very many different aspects, like you say, traditional Christianity. Well, that too, a lot of that also combines with what we learned through A Course in Miracles, and forgiveness is one of them. So I kind of like that you presented that way, because it made me think, could I forgive? I would guess I would have to. I know one thing, that I have such a tremendously wonderful, loving relationship with Jesus, that that I know that he would be there for me under any circumstances. I have the faith that that's what would happen. That he would definitely uh, be there to caress, my distress, sadness, and so forth.
Glorian?
Yeah, wow, that's a tough one. I cannot imagine what that experience might be like. But like Myrna said, I guess we would have to do that because we do have to forgive everything. But if we look at forgiveness as the willingness not to judge it, that's really what we're doing, not forgiveness to destroy, to say, I forgive you because, but the idea of recognizing that what my brother did not occur, moving to that level of consciousness. But when we recognize like all of these temptations, everything that we see is really there to teach us that I'm not a body. So whether it's death or germs or fear or war or chaos or any of these things and any of the ways that they manifest, if we really dig deep, it's their trials or lessons yet unlearned, presented once again that where we made a faulty choice, a new one can be made. This is what Jesus tells us. So if we look at that, what's the choice that we're always making? Either I'm a body or I'm not a body. I'm an ego or I'm the Christ. And I think that the idea is not the willingness to not judge it. Everything that we do, it comes down to the willingness not to judge it, which is true forgiveness. And I like the idea of what you said about the t-shirt that they had on, faith over fear. If we look at that faith, what is true faith but in our divinity and what we are in truth? That is what faith is. And Jesus tells us faithfulness is belief in the other, but true faith is the belief in our divinity of the Christ that I am. So faith over fear, the grievance. The grievance is associated with the body. And that's what it is. We want to have faith in what we are over the fear of identifying with a body with that false sense of being. We used to say that, we would watch the news to see, how we're doing here. If we watch the news, we can recognize our willingness not to judge it, because that's really what it comes down to. That's the only way we can forgive it. Otherwise, we're in that forgiveness to destroy. So I like what Myrna said. It was coming to me that, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. So if we hold steadfast to that, the essence of what I am, then we recognize that God is in everything I see. Beyond the concept, somewhere is the reality of the Christ, because all there is Christ's grace. And like you started out saying, Myrna, all those words are synonymous: joy, love, being, that's all there really is. So it really comes down to our willingness, which is, to relinquish the block keeping us from obscuring from us the light that we are. And Dove put here in the chat, peace is achieved by removing the blocks of attack and fear. Peace is the condition of the kingdom. So if we recognize that, I'm identifying with the grievance and I have to be willing to let that go, the blocks to love's presence are ideas of sin and guilt and the judgments and grievances, which is all identification with that false mind. And, for me, that just keeps coming, more and more, the willingness to do it. We have a choice, but it has to be the willingness to do it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Glorian. Very, very wise. I love what you said, Glorian. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. That's just such a core principle of A Course in Miracles. projection makes perception. You know, the phrase, I will believe it when I see it. I mean, is that true? Or will we see it when we believe it? What comes first, what we see or what we believe? Because if we are creating our own experience, if we are the projector and life is a movie, well, then when we believe it, we will see it. When we accept God's love for us, we will see that love in our brother clearly, but we can't see that love, that Christ-like nature in our brother until we own it within ourselves. It's the whole analogy of seeing the world through a certain color glass. So when we have a pair of yellow sunglasses on and we're looking at the snow, we're going to see yellow snow. When we have orange sunglasses and we're looking at the snow, we're going to see orange snow. So again, it's so important to connect to source energy first and then see the world through the eyes of Christ. I mean, that's what Jesus did when he was here. He connected to source energy first, and then he saw the world through the eyes of God. And even when he was put in the most horrific circumstance that anyone could face, he still saw his crucifiers through the eyes of love, and that is what he is teaching us to do. And then I would say the fastest and the easiest way into heaven. And again, what is heaven? Heaven is a state of mind that is just perfect peace, perfect joy, perfect happiness. We don't have to wait till after we die to get there. We just work on aligning our thoughts with the thoughts of love, and that's how we can feel heaven right here, right now. How do we get there? The fastest and easiest way is forgiveness. I mean, that's it, forgiveness. The 21st principle of miracles states miracles are natural signs of forgiveness. Through miracles, you accept God's forgiveness by extending it to others. So again, it's a way of training our mind, focusing on the innocence in other people, even when we feel that their actions towards us are unjust. We still focus on the innocence in them, and that's how we keep ourselves plugged into our God socket. That's how we maintain this mindset based on love. I was doing a podcast this week, which is really fun. It's a particular site that I'm a part of, and I reach out to other podcast hosts. And there was this lovely lady from India who asked me to be on her podcast. And she wasn't so familiar with A Course in Miracles. So I was explaining the meaning to her. And her question to me was, I see that forgiveness is very, very important, she said, and I understand how that is necessary. She said, and I told her the whole premise behind A Course in Miracles is non-duality, only the love is real. He says, I understand the premise that only the love is real. And when you're suffering, you're not in your right mind. She says, I understand all that. And her question to me was, but how do you come to terms with all the suffering that people are going through? What do you say to somebody that's suffering? Only the love is real. Sometimes that's just not going to help them get out of the darkness. And I thought that was a really, really good question. And I guess what I think when it comes to that, and I'll ask Myrna and Gloria their thoughts as well, or anyone else that wants to chime in, feel free to raise your hand. I'd love to hear other Course in Miracles students' thoughts. I think that if we were perfect, we wouldn't have been born. We're here in this earthly classroom to learn how to love unconditionally. So when the universe triggers us, I love that word trigger. It's a lesson that our soul needs to learn. And basically, when the universe triggers us, it's showing us something within our unconscious mind that has not yet been healed. So by bringing this trigger to the surface, taking a look at the pain point instead of projecting it onto someone else, like own the pain. And by owning the pain and forgiving the person that triggered us, that's how we can work through the stuff, the fear-based thoughts in our unconscious mind that we need to forgive, that we need to release. That's how we can clear our channel. Any thoughts on that, Myrna?
Yeah, I'm just looking at I'm looking at something that Doug posted on the chat. Just what you said a little while ago, do we believe before we see, or do we see before we believe? Which, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Or when I think about that, the thought that came to me was we are not humans having a spiritual experience, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So, I like to think of it that way, that I'm really, really here to experience my own self, um, my own reality on this earth, and how I can heal it. I think that's probably what my purpose is, to heal the imperfection of who I am. We are human. We're not perfect. I think, what you said a little while ago is, we're not something about a perfection. We're really not perfect. And I think if we were perfect, we wouldn't have a body. Okay, if we were really perfect, that's what you said. You said we wouldn't be on this earth if we were perfect. And that what came to my mind is that we wouldn't have a body. We'd have no need for it. Because what is a body? It's something that, it's a piece of equipment we're dragging along. And we are, in a way, of course, as being human beings on this planet, we are, we are committed to it. That's what we are. That's what the body is. But we can recognize that the body is really not that much importance. It's more of a soul experience in this world that really brings us to who we really are. And it's not the physical, it's beyond that. Then, then we begin to understand our purpose, our own reality. And we're all here to recognize what our purpose is, what our the reason that we're given the experience, the experience as human beings, is so that we can. This is a perfect place. The planet Earth is a perfect place to heal it, because we go through all those emotions that are unholy. So we are given the experience and the reason here to heal it all. And as the Course in Miracles says, and as Dove said in the chat, we can save 1,000 years. I love that we can save 1,000 years. I mean, who would want to go through 1,000 more years of the experiences that I've had on this earth, going around in circles, experiencing the emotions that do nothing except to hurt me, and the guilt or the fear, the unforgiveness that we may be feeling. So I definitely want to save 1,000 years. So every time a thought comes to me that I'm an attack thoughts or a grievance, an attack thought or a grievance that comes into mind, I do think about that. I really want to save 1,000 years, and I'm not going to nurture that thought. So again, I think we're just here to recognize that we are soul beings experiencing having a human experience. So that gives me comfort. Any thoughts about that?
Gloria?
Definitely. I want to save 1,000 years too. So that's why we do this. Jesus tells us this 1,000 years can be saved. Just think about that. I think that the reason we're here is to relinquish our grievances, our judgments, our human thoughts of duality. Our projections of our own unresolved guilt and fear that we see reflected back at us. This is, everything is offering us that opportunity to show us what we think so we can make another choice about it. And I like what you said about, miracles, natural signs of forgiveness, extending it to others. I guess that's, what is it, Principle 27, something like that. But if we recognize that, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. We're using Christ's vision, our natural state of being, which is the acceptance of what we are. That's what we are. Natural signs of forgiveness. That's just accepting what we are, natural spirit. I mean, if we're aligned with spirit, there is no need to forgive. We only need to forgive if we're in the wrong mind. So the miracles that shift from fear to the love that I am, where I'm experiencing myself in my natural state, where I don't need to forgive. So the ego sees, division because it made division. So creation, which love, God, extends, and that's wholeness. The ego makes, projects, and separates. So I think it's just always coming back to this idea of, if I'm in my natural state of being, if I'm in my alignment with the Christ that I am, I'm an extension of the love of God, extending out into the world. If I choose this ego mind, I'm projecting and separating. The ego makes, God creates. And you said something too about the projection making perception. And if we, he does say it somewhere, Jesus does say, projection makes perception, but perception is a mirror and not a fact. So if we really use everything like that, recognizing that the perception that I'm seeing is a mirror of what I think, it's not a fact, because only reality is a fact. So I can make a different choice then. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I love everything you both said. And you said we are here to learn to relinquish our grievances, to learn to relinquish our resentments. I always say that A Course in Miracles is very simple. It's just such a simple truth, because only the love is real. I mean, you think about it, all the grievances and the resentments that we hang on to, they lower our vibrational frequency, and they're heavy and they're burdensome to carry around. So why would we want to do that? Why would we want to hold on to unforgiveness? The simple truth is just let them go, and your whole vibrational frequency is going to elevate it. I mean, the truth is that we can't even hear God speak to us when we're down in dense energy, when we're down, when we're holding on to fear-based thoughts and fear-based emotions. God is still talking to us, but we are unable to hear him. When we release our resentments and we release our anxiety, then our thoughts elevate themselves. We connect to that power of unconditional love, and we are able to hear God's guidance for our life. So again, it's such a simple truth. Love is the only thing that is going to make us happy. It's just not easy because the world, it's so apparent right now, again, with everything that's coming to the surface for healing. You know, the world is run on the egoic thought system. That's not what the world is teaching us. I have to say this because I think it's just so beautiful. You know, Myrna shared a AI YouTube video with me, and I must have played it
I
3 times because it was so amazing.
Can
It
we,
was all of the world leaders, you know, singing a song of love. And again, it was AI generated. It's amazing what artificial intelligence can do. But I mean, just to have the leader of Russia, Putin, the leader of the United States, Trump, the leader
this
of
is it.
Israel, the
See?
leader of China, we are the world.
Yeah.
And they're all singing, you know, a
Yeah, it's
song
beautiful.
based
Well,
on love.
play it if we can. I would love to play it because that talk about being illuminated. That I didn't need to go in, have a meditative experience to feel this. This absolutely, it just did. It's AI generated, as you say, but for that moment, the whole world came together as one in this video. I just thought it was brilliant. I'm going to have to ask Lynn to play it, if she can. It's We Are the World 2025 Anthem, World Leaders Unite generated song. I
Yeah, I
just kind
played
of
it the
thought,
other night in our
oh, you did?
meeting in the evening. Yeah,
Oh,
and
you did play. I didn't, okay, I wasn't there, but that's great that you did. That's wonderful. Yeah.
And
So,
Glorian had her hand up too. Glorian wants to jump in.
I just wanted to say quickly, yeah, I thought that was great too. And Brooklyn had sent it to me, and she said that what she found was wonderful about it is how AI caught the Christ consciousness.
oh,
So, it was very interesting, but I really liked it. I really, really did. So
yeah,
I agree. If we could play it, that'd be great.
yeah. Oh, that's great. It was
And
nice.
Doug
Yeah,
has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think what you said originally, Susan, is absolute the truth. It says trigger, is something that we come into this world like a classroom, and he says in lesson 193, all things are lessons God would have you learn. And of course, we only really learn the things that trigger us, things that upset us, and we understand that we get angry but that's projection makes perception. And then, as Glorian said, perception is a mirror, and I'm always speaking about myself. So we're learning to turn our attack thoughts into peaceful thoughts. That's exactly what it says in the second of the three lessons of the Holy Spirit. To have peace, teach peace, to learn it. And the Holy Spirit only has three lessons. The first one is to have, give all to all. The second is to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. So the way we we learn peace is we know the peace is within. I am the peace that I'm looking for. I mean, if you look outside, you're not going to find peace. And he has that whole chapter 29, section, I think it's 7. Seek not outside yourself, you will fail. So we look in the world, and you're absolutely right. Right now, it seems to be everything is in the news. I mean, people are screaming in pain. People are losing their money. What's going to happen to us? Why don't they change things? But actually, if you are feeling the pain, you're looking outside, and he's telling you to look within. If you look within, there is no pain, and you have to rise above the battleground. The world is a battleground. There's no two ways about it. And I did put turn your swords into plowshares, which is a very famous saying. And you can grow peace, but not by looking at the world. You can't grow peace in the world. You have to, exactly as it says in chapter 23, rising above the battleground. But the battleground's over here, right here, this dense, dark body. And we were talking about the light. The light is our oneness, our sameness, our equality. It's certainly not anything that the body's eyes or the body's brain can think of. So that's my sharing. Thanks.
Yeah, everything
Thank
is either
you.
a lesson or a blessing, Dove, right? And a lesson or a blessing. If we learn it, it's a lesson. If it's not a lesson, we don't have to learn it, then it's a blessing. I'd like to relate a story, though, interesting that I just thought of something. You often ask me, Susan, have you had any Jesus experiences? And I did have a Jesus experience. And I'd like to, I'll try to make it brief, and I will. I had this cleaning person who's been coming to me maybe 15, 16 years. She comes, cleans my house, and I know, and I'm very trustworthy, leave her alone, she has a key and all that. About 6 months ago, she started bringing a helper with her, a helper. And, fine. But then I noticed that something was missing, a gold chain was missing. Um, so I said, okay, I tend to be careless with my things sometimes. But so I guess the thought must have kind of, well, was it, taken, was it stolen? I don't know this person. Anyway, so I had forgotten about it. Anyway, about a week ago, the same person, cleaning person, comes with her helper. And after she left, I was looking for a ring, and it's not there. It's not in my box where I always keep it. Okay, so now I'm thinking, okay, well, here I had, this is the scenario that my ego is now conjuring up. Well, what do? You've had this woman for 15, 16 years. Are you going to tell her that things are being stolen? I mean, how do you do this? And I go to Jesus with this. So the answer that I got was from Jesus was, well, you have two choices. One choice is you may find the ring and then there's nothing to worry about. Or if you don't find it, then you come to me and I'll tell you what to do. That gave me complete comfort, because here, this was coming through loud and clear. Either you'll find it, and if you don't, come to me and then I'll tell you how to proceed. And Jesus has always told me how to proceed when I've been in a fix or sort of in a quandary. Well, the truth is, I did find the ring, okay? And Jesus said to me is loud and clear, nobody steals. That's what the lesson was, and that's what the affirmation that I got was. So that was very uplifting for me. And I promised myself I'll never, ever condemn anybody. And even if something is stolen, it doesn't really matter. This is what I came away recognizing. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful story. Go ahead, Deb. I'm sorry.
I just want to say that's the same mindset as Byron Katie. When somebody came and burglarized her home, she says, I guess they can use it more than me.
Well, Jesus said that. Give you, if if somebody steals your rod, then give him your cloak or something like that, you know. So I like that. Just give it to them if they need it. True.
Yeah, there's a big story that Alan Cohen seems to tell a lot about somebody who was fairly enlightened, and a burglar broke into his house, and then the homeowner shouts out to the burglar. The burglar starts to run away. And then the homeowner said, "Oh, don't run. Come over here to talk. Why don't we talk?" So he starts talking to the burglar. The burglar starts telling the homeowner that he's had a lot of negative experiences lately and he's really scared and he's so sorry that he broke into the home. And then the homeowner gives him some money and says to the burglar, "If you ever need anything else, don't hesitate to come back." So that's just like a perfect Course in Miracles forgiveness story, because
Yeah.
everything is either love or a call for love.
Right.
I also remember a funny story. I don't think this is Course in Miracles, but my own father, he had dementia. So I guess he was about 96 years old when this happened. He passed at 97, but he always thought, like in his mind, this is, I guess, what the story would be about. We always create our reality by the thoughts that we hold in our mind. So in his mind, he saw people as not trustworthy, as thieves. This was the thought that he was holding in his mind. So he thought that people were going into his sock drawer and stealing his socks. And he was in a wheelchair at the time. And then what he did is he wheeled himself out of the room and started wheeling himself into other residents' room, going through their sock drawers, trying to find the socks that he thought they stole, which I thought was quite comical. Um, it's we all have our own perception of reality, and whatever we're thinking in our mind, it will tend to play it out in our world. So if we're thinking love-based thoughts, people are honest, people are trustworthy, people are loving, then that's what we're going to see. If we think the opposite and we're holding on to fear-based thoughts of the ego, well, that's going to be our reality. And you know what? My father, with all of his fear, I really believe was the perfect teacher for me. He yeah, I loved him. He was an atheist when he died, so he never really had a strong belief in God, but he was the perfect teacher for me. So, as Sherry says, it's all good.
Very nice. Yeah. Which teacher we listen to, the teacher of of the soul, or the teacher of the ego. The fact is that if we can differentiate between the two, and that's, I think, our learning lessons too within this, incarnation. Glorian has a hand up.
Yeah, I really like this conversation. What was coming to me when you were speaking about the idea of stealing is really the lesson of valuelessness and recognizing that, the only thing of true value is what is real. Jesus tells us nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. So, even, when I got sick and, that was a very lesson in valuing the valueless because I had just purchased a new house and built a new house and and it really at that when you're on your deathbed none of this means anything. So that's to me was a big lesson in valueless and valuelessness because the only thing of true value is the reality of what I am. When Dove was talking about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, to have, give all to all, to have peace, teach peace, to learn peace, and be vigilant for God in the kingdom. To have, give all to all. to give to all, we have to accept what I am. We have to accept that I have. And that's sharing our thoughts and ideas, of course, give all to all. That doesn't mean we don't give our possessions, because again, we can tie that into, valuelessness, because, it doesn't mean anything. I'm giving everything all the meaning it has for me. If somebody, needs food, take it. So to have all, give all to all, to have peace, teach peace to learn peace. We can't teach peace if we're coming from the ego, because the ego does not know peace. So we have to be in peace in order to teach peace, to learn it. And of course, like Dove said, we're always speaking to ourselves. So, if that's what we're teaching, that's what we're accepting. And be vigilant only for God and the kingdom. That's what every day we wake up, and that's our job, to be vigilant for God and the kingdom, is to move into the awareness of that Christ consciousness that I am. So I'm trying to think of what else, but anyway, I did love this conversation. And oh, I know what it was. Seek not outside yourself. And that's so important. And it goes in line with the section, The Appointed Friend. And really what that's about is your communication link with spirit. And if we have this communication link with spirit, which is what we are, then we need nothing that is outside ourselves. So it always comes back to, am I the ego or am I the Christ? And once we accept the Christ, then there's healing. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and Dove in his earlier chat pointed out that lesson 193 states, all things are lessons God would have me learn. And I think that's an amazing lesson, just as they all are. But if it's not love and it's anything that is based on fear, there is a lesson that we need to learn from it. It's something in our mind that is being shown to us that needs to be healed. How do we heal? We forgive. And then it says in the different italicized sentences throughout this lesson, forgive and you will see this differently. Forgive and you will see this differently. I will forgive and this will disappear. So the way out of our grievance, the way out of our trigger is to forgive. But I do know from personal experience, the forgiveness has to be real. And that takes persistence. Dove?
Yeah, I actually forgot that you said exactly what it is that we've come here to learn: unconditional love. You had said that earlier, because and things that teach us unconditional love are things that trigger us, because sooner or later we have to forgive and let go, and the love is always here. We don't have to learn love. We have to remove the grievances. Ego analyzes and has grievances. Spirit accepts. I have this thing on my thing that says, just breathe. We breathe in acceptance and we breathe out grievances. That lightens us up.
Removing the blocks to love.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
Exactly. The Course in Miracles can't teach us the meaning of love, because love is the essence of who we are. It can help us to release the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Glorian?
Yeah, I love that. I remember that I am love. And, all we have to do is remember, recognize, accept, and acknowledge. And like Dove always says, acceptance is key, because if we're not accepting, we're resisting. If we're resisting, we're identifying with the grievance or the body, which is blocking us from the limitless possibilities of the realization of what we truly are. So, thanks.
Thank you. And thank you all so very much. I love you all. Thank you for jumping in and sharing with us, Dove. You are so wise. I always learn so much from you. And beautiful Myrna, beautiful Glorian. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Lynn. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Only the love is real. Thank God for A Course in Miracles. I'm so grateful for this text. And it's 2:00. I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, everybody. Thank you, Susan Michel. I love